We're also learning more this morning about how former top officials in the Trump administration feel about the former president. General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, called Trump, quote, a fascist to the core. That's according to excerpts from War, a new book from longtime Washington journalist Bob Woodward. Milley went on to tell Woodward that Trump is the most dangerous person ever. I had suspicions when I talked to you about his mental decline and so forth, but now I realize he's a total fascist. He is now the most dangerous person to this country. Milley also said he fears he could be court-martialed if Trump wins the election. Although Milley is retired, the president, as commander-in-chief, can recall retired commissioned officers to active duty and then, potentially, court-martial them. Joining us now, another retired general who is raising the alarm about the dangers of a possible second Trump term, two-star Major General Randy Matter. General, thank you so much for joining us this morning and, of course, for your service. We just heard what Chairman Milley had to say. Give us your own impressions. Why are you so alarmed about the possibilities of a second Trump term? What would it mean for this nation?
So I think it's very important for all the viewers to understand a few things about what is the Trump campaign and what is President Trump. He's authoritarian. It's nationalistic. It's far right. It's intolerant of dissent. It has a contempt for the rule of law. It requires direct obedience to a powerful leader, and it requires the supremacy of one ethnic group. Well, I just gave you the definition of what fascism is. And that's what hurts so much personally, is the average American who is a Trump supporter does not understand that actually right now, President Trump is demonstrating the attributes of fascism every single day. So essentially, we have to remember, what does it mean when General Milley called President Trump a fascist? That is right out of the textbook. It is not something where it is political rhetoric. It is exactly what it is. And every American that is supporting Trump right now needs to understand that they are absolutely supporting fascism if they vote for Trump.
So, General, your words and then the title you carry gives them so much weight. My question to you is, we know there's a reluctance among other retired military officers to do the same, to speak out. And there are some who say to Chairman Milley, we respect, of course, your service, but you also worked for him. You saw up close what President Trump was like. If you were to go public, if you were to give an interview like this on the record in front of a camera, that would mean so much. Same with Mattis, Kelly, and the rest. What would your urgings to them be?
So it's important to say that every single retired officer has to make their own choice. As retired military, we are free to express our opinions politically, not, of course, while we serve on active duty, but while we are retired. Part of the organization that I am a member of, the National Security Leaders for America, we have over 15 four-star generals and admirals who actually have expressed very strongly their support for Vice President Harris. So I think it's important to say that it is an individual choice, and people have to decide what they need to do personally. I think it's also very important, as was described by some of the people that you interviewed a few minutes ago, a few thousand votes are going to decide this election in key districts. It disturbs me greatly that Congressman Scott Perry and others in Pennsylvania and in Michigan are literally suing their states to disenfranchise the absentee ballots of deployed American soldiers, sailors, airmen and Marines and their spouses. And it's something where they're losing the military vote, and they're very nervous about it, and they want to, quite frankly, say those votes shouldn't count for various reasons. We need to keep in mind that all of these are attempts to disenfranchise our military and our veterans who actually do support Vice President Harris. Think about it. Almost every single American, whether you are a parent, a spouse, an uncle, an aunt, a son, a daughter, knows somebody who has served in the military or has served as a veteran, held their hand up and said that they will support the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, of which I have done it. My father did it. My grandfather did it during World War II. My son has done it in the Air Force presently. It's one of those things where, because we all know that, do we want a commander-in-chief who says that he will potentially use the National Guard and active duty military to hunt down those people who do not agree with him. Not only is it illegal, it's immoral. Now, remember, the Supreme Court has already said that the president can do whatever he or she wants without any kind of consequences. That means that will be a green light for him to use the National Guard, which is extremely easy, by the way, from a legal point of view. He could use it to hunt down people who don't agree with him. Is that what we want in our country? Well, I don't, and I think most Americans do not.
General, talk about how the anguish and soul searching that you and others retired had to do to even step out, because I've been around a while now, and it's unprecedented to see people like General Milley and people like you be so public, knowing that you could be targeted if this election goes another way. Talk about what it took to get to your personal decision and that of others who've taken this unprecedented thing of where people that have risen to the top ranks in the military goes against what the trend has been of staying out of political races, but made you feel you had to come forward even though it was at great risk.
So that's a great question. It's something where for 35 years I was apolitical. I basically kept my opinions to myself. What I saw in Trump's first term disturbed me greatly, because he had this disdain for the Constitution. He had this disdain for laws that he did not agree with or that he basically didn't want to follow. And I think that myself, and speaking for many of the other people that I know personally, we took that oath, again, to defend the Constitution of the United States, not, as General Milley said, to pledge allegiance to some dictator or wannabe dictator or king or queen. That is not the American way. That's the way that Putin required it. That's the way that Hitler required it. You are required to take a personal oath to him. That is not the way we do it here. All of these reasons put together mean that we believe strongly that Trump is a clear and present danger to our democracy, that he will turn it into a fascist state, because he already leads a fascist party. And again, for those of you who don't believe me, please Google the definition of fascism, and you will see it almost word for word what the MAGA group is all about. That's why we are not supporting Trump. I'm registered as independent. I voted for Ronald Reagan. I voted for George Bush Sr. I vote for the person that matters most, who will best serve our country. And Trump is the absolute opposite of this. I'm just appalled, and it's been very difficult, sir, for me to come to this conclusion, and for others, but we must absolutely not put Trump back in as the commander-in-chief.
Retired two-star Major General Randy Maner, thank you.
Thank you.